Hey folks, this is Kalani. A very interesting item was just added to the patch 9.2 PTR. This item could be one of the most powerful reputation rewards we've seen in recent expansions, partly because of the inherent power you'll gain from the unlock, but also because this item allows you to completely skip over an entire system or feature of progression in the Shadowlands expansion. The Vessel of Profound Possibilities will allow you to automatically learn every single conduit available to your class and upgrade all of your conduits to item level 278, which is the new maximum item level available for conduits in patch 9.2. But there are some very heavy requirements to earn this item, so let's dig a bit deeper and check out just how powerful this item could end up being and who gets to use it. The first requirement for purchasing this item shouldn't be too surprising considering the title of the video and what we just said. It's a reputation reward. This item comes from the new Enlightened faction in Zereth Mortis. The Enlightened are a faction of brokers who found their way into the workshop of the first ones quite a while ago, and they basically worship anything and everything to do with these mysterious missing gods. Earning reputation with them is very straightforward. Do stuff in Zereth Mortis. World quests, daily quests, story quests, progress through systems, kill rares, all of the standard rep farming chores that we've been doing, for the last 15 years. You're going to be doing a lot of rep grinding if this item is your goal because you need to get exalted to purchase this item, so it's at the end of this new rep grind, which also shouldn't be too surprising considering its overall power. The best stuff is always locked behind exalted. This item is no different. But the requirements don't stop there. Working your way through a rep grind all the way to Exalted isn't going to be enough this time. You will also need one of the harder to obtain endgame achievements in patch 9.2. There are currently 3 qualifying achievements. You can get the Gladiator achievement for Season 3, which is win 50 3v3 games while at Elite rank during Season 3. That's a very tall ask for the vast majority of players. I doubt many players can get up to Elite, let alone win 50 games while maintaining the ranking. The second achievement is the Mythic Sepulchre of the First One's achievement. To get that, you'd need to kill all of the bosses in the new raid on Mythic difficulty. We all know that's even less likely than the Gladiator achievement. Very few guilds complete the entire raid on Mythic when compared to the entire player base. And then the last achievement is any Keystone Hero achievement for any dungeon in Shadowlands Season 3. The Keystone Hero achievements are the ones which require you to clear a dungeon on a plus 20 key or above, the same achievements that reward you with a teleport to the dungeon. You might think a plus 20 key is completely and utterly out of reach for you, but this is arguably the easiest achievement out of the 3 to obtain. You can probably see a bit of a small problem with this item. With these achievements being required to get your hands on the Vessel of Profound Possibilities, the vast majority of the player base simply won't ever be able to buy it. Now, you might be thinking, any player who doesn't already do some of that top tier content doesn't really need to have max level conduits, and I would agree. They don't need them, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't be fun to give them an option to work towards an item or goal or piece of progression that they would otherwise miss out on entirely. Item level 278 conduits only drop from the Mythic raid. Anyone who gets the full clear Mythic achievement will earn a lot of those 278 conduits before they can unlock this item, so really it's another avenue for the high-level Dungeoneers and the high-level PvPers to earn an entire set of max-level conduits without needing to dip their toes into Mythic raiding or rely on a random upgrade system. Those are the main players who stand to benefit from this item being added into the game, which honestly is not a lot of people in the grand scheme of things. But what is hilarious to me about that is that even those players who are at the tippy top of progress in every area of the game are still going to have to do this rep grind. Having both the Exalted rep grind and the endgame achievement requirement aren't necessarily contradictory, but they don't typically align all too well. A lot of endgame raiders specifically have expressed extreme frustration about having to grind through every reputation thrown at them because of the minor performance increases. This time, it's not a minor increase. This is going to be a big upgrade. There's also the distinction between accessibility here. Reputation farming is something that has always been available to the entire player base. Rep rewards were typically something that allowed anyone to obtain power beyond their usual means, because getting to Revered or Exalted took a long time, so it was okay to have higher powered items or features in that reward structure. But having an item that also requires these big endgame achievements immediately locks out 90% of the entire player base. I guess my main point here is, what's the point of having both of those requirements? If you take away the rep requirement, it doesn't really decrease the number of players who have access to this item. It feels like the main reason here is simply to time gate this item. The dev team are saying, we know that regrinding Conduits over and over again isn't fun, so we're going to give you an option to just complete the entire thing. Every Conduit, max item level, boom, job's done. Never have to worry about Conduits ever again because we know they're getting trashed at the end of Shadowlands. This is also only going to be for the top players, and we don't want you to get it too quickly because, well, that would be silly, so you also have to get to Exalted with the new rep. I guess the devs might be worried about how quickly some players can complete a plus 20 dungeon in the new season because, as I said earlier, that's the easiest one here. In fact, these achievements aren't really even close in difficulty. Full clearing the raid on Mythic is going to take way longer when compared to the other two achievements, so anyone who is interested in this item for the purpose of raiding and progression will probably get this item from the dungeon achievement way before they actually finish the raid. But I guess the silver lining here is that all three of the major endgame types are included here, so you don't have to do one to progress in the other, even if they are vastly disproportionate with what they require. That does bring up another potential problem though. Boosting players through hard content isn't anything new. People pay lots of gold to get heroic clears, mythic only mounts, plus 15 keys in time, plus 20 keys in time now that there's extra achievements and rewards, and PvP carries are nothing new either. Having such a powerful reward available at a level that is already being sold will be an incredibly lucrative option available to anyone who is already selling that kind of service. I imagine selling a plus 20 key won't be all that hard, especially with double legendaries, tier sets, and every other massive power spike that comes along with a new patch. So I guess you could argue that includes another subset of the player base. Anyone with enough gold, or I guess enough real cash to buy tokens to sell for enough gold to buy these services, will also have access to the huge Conduit unlock, but that's not exactly earning the reward in the conventional way, and it does add another argument into the mix of tokens enabling pay-to-win mechanics in World of Warcraft. So right now this item has been specifically designed so that only a very small subsection of the game can access it. While that's cool and fun and exciting for those players, I think there's a lot of missed potential here, and I say that as a cutting edge raider. I'm going to get my hands on this item no matter what because I'm going to do the plus 20 dungeon and I'm going to eventually clear the raid on Mythic. We do that every single tier. So how could this item be made better and more accessible for the wider player base? The first thing I would do is make this item account-wide. If you get to this point in the game and you can basically finish the Conduit grind, being able to take advantage of that unlock on your alts as well would be huge. Not only as a power spike for your players in general, but it would be a huge incentive for working towards those requirements. The more you stand to gain from an achievement, the more likely you are to think it's actually worth putting in the effort to get it. Having to regrind this item for every character you want good Conduits on is ridiculous, and I really think the dev team needs to fully embrace account-wide unlocks. The second thing I would do is actually add another similar item. There's already one of these on the same reputation vendor, by the way, which you can pick up when you reach friendly with the Enlightened. The Font of Ephemeral Power will do the exact same thing, unlock all Conduits and level them up to item level 226. This item is also bind on account, so you can use it across all your alts as soon as you unlock it once. This is a step above the item we already have in patch 915, the one that will unlock all Conduits and boost them all up to item level 200. So the dev team already very clearly understands that farming Conduits across multiple characters and for every new patch that comes out is a frustrating experience. They already have a few of these items in place, but they serve as a minimal catch-up mechanic for item levels that are far below relevant progression of the patch. Item level 226 Conduits are lower than any actual source of Conduits in patch 9.2, including Mythic Dungeons and Raid Finder, so there's no reliable progress here for Conduits. If they introduced an item that was between this item level 226 unlock and the highest item level of 278 full unlock, that would be something a lot of players would work towards. If you want to have it in the same vein and require the same things, it could be unlocked at Revered and require, I don't know, plus 10 dungeons, the raid completed on normal or some lower rank of PvP. The same kind of requirements, if they're absolutely necessary, which I personally don't think they are, but if they are necessary for the dev team, make them lower requirements. Something the average player can achieve with a bit of work, something to progress towards and push themselves for. Can you imagine completing the raid on normal and then being able to unlock all of the Conduits and upgrade them to the same item level that drops from the normal raid? That's something I bet a bunch of players would be like, oh, normal raid might not be too bad, let's see if we can get that done. You never know, players might get a taste of these types of endgame content that they haven't tried before and try to push towards that 278 item level unlock by going further and further. Which brings me to another option: just reduce the requirements. Nobody likes reforming conduits. The same conduits, I might add, that we've had for the entire expansion. There's nothing new here, nothing being introduced. It's just being strung along yet again to provide another carrot on a stick for players to chase after. But a carrot on a stick only works when it's within a certain distance. A horse isn't going to run a mile for a carrot he can't barely see. The same thing goes for players. You can't dangle a shiny carrot that's locked behind the entire raid on Mythic or the highest rank of PvP gameplay or running a +20 dungeon when most players are struggling to get above a +10. Nobody who wouldn't have already been doing that stuff is going to go out of their way to try just because of this item, which reinforces the fact that this item is not for the average player. This item is specifically for the people at the top. But if the requirements were lower, something more in reach, that might be enough to pique players' interest. But honestly, the way this item works with the current conduit setup is a bit too powerful. I don't really see the dev team shifting position on this one, but adding in an item in between what we already have would be a great start. And then I guess the other option here would have been to just leave the conduit system behind. If new conduits aren't being added, they actually didn't really need to increase the item level of conduits again. It just serves to add another time grind for player power, and it acts as more of a reset button on progress already made, as opposed to farming something new and exciting. Honestly, I think having new conduits to look for would have been way more interesting when compared with just increasing the item levels of conduits we already have, but maybe that's just me. In previous patches, an item was introduced to allow players to slowly upgrade their conduits randomly, one at a time, up to the higher item levels. We had these in the first season of Shadowlands and the second season too, mainly tied to another rep grind. But from what we've seen so far, the Season 3 equivalent has not been added to the PTR yet, but we might see it sometime in the future, I guess. That would offer an alternative path, but one that almost always required a lot of grinding, and the randomness of upgrades made it quite frustrating overall. So there you have it. Patch 9.2 will introduce one of the most powerful reputation rewards that we've seen in a very long time, and most of the player base won't ever get to use it. What do you think of the Vessel of Profound Possibilities? Is it okay for this item to serve as an autocomplete tool for the top tier of players, or do you think it should be made more accessible? How would you change this item to make it better for the wider player base? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to everyone who's subscribed on Twitch. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.